Welcome to Teams Tuesday, a podcast about mastering the best about what other people have already figured out. Teams Tuesday focuses on insights and lessons that never expire. You will walk away from every episode with actionable insights that help you get better results and be more productive.
This was about as bizarre and easy as it gets.
The client just couldn't make up their mind.
I feel like we had top.
Went from a project of 20 weeks to just 2.
The DevOps was a cultural shift.
This is Teams Tuesday with your host, Peter Ward.
Welcome to Teams Tuesday. It's April 2025. We're going through the year and I've got two great guests. A bit of a double act going on here. I've got Mohammed Derhali and Jim Bob Howard. So where are you guys located?
So I'm located in Montreal, Canada.
Okay. And Jim, what about yourself?
I'm in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Okay. And let's just talk about a little bit about SharePoint. Okay. Mohammed, your first version of SharePoint was in 2000, with SharePoint 2003. Is that correct?
Yes, that's true.
Now, you could say those were the good days or those were the shaky days, I suppose.
Well, I actually worked with 2003 by mistake because I thought it was 2007 at that time. So we had two environments in the company and they told me, hey, we want you to go and do this with 2007. So I went to the legacy site and started try to do stuff. And I was like, I thought it's a different theme actually. Like, hey, what does this SharePoint site 2007 have a different theme, look and feel? Turned out like it's SharePoint 2003. So I worked with it by mistake. But yeah.
SharePoint portal server probably or something like that.
Exactly, WSS.
Okay, and Jim, what about yourself?
So earliest that I worked with was 2007, but I have worked with the 2003 only for a migration project though.
Right, okay, all right. So we've got a good topic today, like modern employee experience with Microsoft Copilot. So how's that different to, say, the Yammer experience or, the Viva Engage, as they now call it, or regular SharePoint or Teams experience?
Well, it's like the new set of productivity tools by Microsoft. Everything now is going to become an agent, autonomous agent in the background, Copilot being like the UI of AI, as Satya mentioned in one of the keynote sessions. So everything is just going to be like through Copilot, Copilot driving the productivity for employees in the organization, from the main Microsoft Teams chat to the different Office applications in the environment. So it's going to be like the gateway. Jim Bob, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think the important part to remember about Copilot is that it is new as far as we're talking, large language models, but it's still referencing the same data. So it's still the same index that we've been using for search for all this time. And so it's tied to the graph, it's tied to everything that's been indexed. It's security trimmed just the same way all of your searches do. It just adds some extra functionality on top of that.
Right. Okay. Well, also, okay. And what is that extra functionality?
Well, that's the generative AI side of things, being able to reason across the all of the stuff that can come back to you, rather than getting a set of search results back that you have to then kind of go through and see if it has the information that you need. It actually reasons across that and gives you natural language back. You also get to do your search with a little more of a natural language.
Well, also like a search result will bring back content.
Yes.
While with an agent, it will generate the content based on the results.
At time, yes, that's true.
So there's a slight difference on that front. All right. So I'm looking at your screen here, and why don't we kick it off there on that?
All right. So just a little bit about myself. Mohammed Derhali, based in Canada. I'm a Microsoft MVP certified trainer. I do things related to SharePoint, Teams, and Copilot. And I'm working as a senior solutions architect at Cyclotron. Right. Jim Bob here with me from Cyclotron as well.
Is that photo AI generated or is that real?
It is AI generated. Absolutely, yeah. See what AI does for you.
Yeah, and Bob, it was just like picture from your high school.
It is a little older.
Graduation book.
Yeah, it's definitely a few years old. Pre-AI for sure. So I'm pre-beard, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So a little about me. I work alongside Mohammed. We're both senior collaboration architects here at Cyclotron. I've been working with SharePoint since 2009. Have organized SharePoint Saturdays, in Austin and Nashville and in Nairobi. I've spoken at several across the country as well too. My day job is, just helping folks make the best decisions they can with any of those tools from SharePoint Teams, OneDrive Engage, and Copilot as of late.
All right, cool.
Jim Bob, do you want to take this?
Oh, sure. So just so you know a little bit about Cyclotron, we're a fairly small company, but we've had some pretty good recognition. We were responsible for about a little over 20% of Copilot deployments across the globe in 2024. We also are recognized as number 1 for Teams and Viva platform, number 2 in Dynamics, number 5 in security.
Fantastic.
So we've done a lot in this space. So we've talked to a lot of different companies, large and small, across the globe.
Well, 20%, that's pretty cool.
Yep. And we go to the next one. So what we're going to be covering today is just discussing the building blocks of Microsoft 365 Copilot, the types of Copilots that we have. We're going to dig into what type of Copilots we have when it comes to Office applications. Then we're going to discuss how we can extend Copilot, what are the limitations of Copilot, how we can extend them. Then we're going to get into reporting, how we can report on who uses Copilot, who can have Copilot in the first place, all of that stuff, and admin controls in case we have enough time at the end. So, all right. Jim Bob, you can take it away.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit, I just mentioned kind of briefly large language models, right? So at the heart of M365 Copilot, and let's just make sure that we talk about M365 Copilot and Copilots. So a Copilot is a piece of software. So Microsoft has produced that as a way to describe the types of things that it does. They're also using the term agent a lot of times as well too. So there may be a little bit of confusion in there, but when we're talking about M365 Copilot, it's the one that's specifically embedded within your Microsoft tenant. And so it uses large language models. It's been developed in collaboration with OpenAI, although it's a separate instance. So Microsoft isn't giving data back to OpenAI or vice versa at all. It's their own instance. But what it allows you to do is use natural language prompts. So we have for 3 decades now with Google, we've tried to figure out what are the key phrases that we want to include, and we try to narrow it down, maybe do a little bit of a long tail to get some specific results, and we get pages and pages of results. Now we're given more words to do. So we want to provide not just what we're trying to find, but also some context around it. What is it that we want to do with the data? Who's the audience for? So all of those things get put into that large language model. So it gives you a lot more robust, really search engine to be able to find the content that you're looking for, not just individual documents, but actually the data and the information that you'd like to get back. Because it is tied into the Microsoft Graph, it is managed and controlled and security trimmed around the things that you have access to. So when you're completely inside your tenant, it's governed by the boundaries of your tenant as well too. So you're not going to have data that's going to go outside. You are going to be able to work specifically within your organization. It's going to be very, very context specific as well too. And because it's tied to the graph, it says, I know who you are, I know what you have access to, and so it's going to give you responses based on that type of information as well too. Mm-hmm. The security, privacy, compliance framework of Microsoft that you've been using all along still comes into play here. Copilot does not expose anything that you don't already have access to. What it may do, though, is let you know that you have access to something that maybe you shouldn't. And so that's one of the places where you just want to make sure that you have good governance in place. You also probably want to do a little bit of an assessment on the front end to make sure that oversharing hasn't been something that's been done within your organization. For a long time, we could have had a little bit of security through obscurity. No one's ever going to search for that, so they're not going to find that document. Now with Copilot, it probably is going to reason across those documents, and it may surface some information and say, hey, here's the file where I went to get that. Oh, I didn't know I had access to that file. What else is in that file? Now, what it's not going to do, it's not going to give you information that it shouldn't. So if you went to ask a question like, what's my boss's social security number? What's his salary? It's not going to answer those questions for you. That doesn't mean that you might not have access to a document that has that information in it, that other information may be returned back to you and it says, oh, here's that document. You go open up that document. Now it's got information that you can see that you probably shouldn't. So that's a place where you would just want to try to take some precautions and take care of oversharing before you do too much within that space as well.
Right.
The other bit about Copilot is that it is integrated with your 365 apps. Now, the important part of that is that it's contextually integrated with those apps. So if I'm inside Word and I'm asking it to do something, it's not going to create a PowerPoint presentation for me from Word. Now, if I'm in PowerPoint, I may say, hey, go get that Word document and do something in PowerPoint, but that's within the context. PowerPoint, I'm doing a presentation. In Word, I'm in the context of working within a document. In Teams, I'm working in the context of I'm looking at a recording from a meeting, or I'm in a meeting with someone, or I'm having a chat with someone. So it's always within the context of what it is you're doing, which is the reason why it's important, as we said at the beginning, is that a Copilot, while M365 Copilot is kind of this integrated thing across everything, you can really think about it as a Teams Copilot, an Outlook Copilot, a PowerPoint Copilot, Word Copilot. And so each of those are integrated in some ways, and there is some cohesion across them, but they are also very much tied to the context of the actual tool that you're working with. So if you're in Outlook and you're asking it about meetings, you're asking it about emails or try to create stuff, that's going to make sense. If you're asking it to make a PowerPoint presentation, again, from Outlook, it's not going to make sense.
Sure.
So go ahead, Peter, were you going to ask a question?
No. I totally hear. Yeah, totally hear. Yeah.
And then the last bit is just the orchestration engine. So this component is what manages how Copilot processes the inputs and then coordinates those responses. So it bridges the LLMs, the Microsoft Graph, app integrations, and ensuring that those prompts are interpreted correctly and responses are grounded in the relevant data so that you're not just getting some off the wall. And yes, Copilot will hallucinate like most Gen AIs do today, but it does a pretty good job of saying, hey, this is the data that I'm basing this off of. And so it's going to be grounded in specific things. When we talk a little bit further about agents and specific agents that we can create using Copilot, like in SharePoint, for example, then you can ground that even more and say, hey, I just want to look at this one specific document library or this one site as you're analyzing and reasoning across specific pieces of data.
So with Copilot, you've got the internal and you have the web.
Yes.
Tabs. Okay. So do you sort of find clients come up to you and they're doing the web, and then on another browser tab they're in ChatGPT, and they're doing the same prompting, and you get different answers? Are you finding clients say to you, what's going on? How come Copilot is giving me different answers?
Well, Copilot itself is going to give you a different answer every time. It's re-reasoning from a new point in time whenever you ask it a question. So if I ask it something and I'm asking it to reason across something, it's going to give me something different. It's also going to interpret things different and maybe have access to different things in different ways. And so just because the ChatGPT and Copilot are both reasoning across the web doesn't necessarily mean that they're approaching it in the exact same way. So you are going to get different responses. You may have the other thing that you may run into too, especially with ChatGPT or Copilot, is different versions, right? And so they're always being upgraded. So if you're not on the latest version, you may be getting something that's a little more hallucinogenic than something that's a little more that's been updated.
Right.
One more thing is, even if you're on the same version, let's say that you create, like, you go to Azure, you decide to create 2 chatbots on the same LLM version, like I'm using GPT-4 in both chatbots. Depends on how you fine-tune the parameters on the actual LLM itself. Depending on how you configure it, it's going to start like producing different answers, right? So there's also one more thing. So when you think about DeepSeek, Grok, Mistral, Llama, and so on, each one of them is made differently. And then if you go into each one, the same model, it can even produce different answers based on how you fine-tune it in these settings itself, right?
Yep.
And that's why, like Microsoft, they always pay attention to what you do in the feedback. Depending on the feedback that you provide to Copilot, they're going to work in the back end to fine-tune the model even further to provide more accurate answers, right?
So this is a drawing that Microsoft produced around how the architecture works. So if you start up at the top left there you can see number one, which is the user prompt coming into Copilot. So that's the place where you're starting to put together. It's like, hey, here's the data that I'm looking for. Here's what I want to do with it. Here's the audience. That goes into Copilot, and then it goes to pre-processing to say, okay, well, what did this person just ask? Let's go and look in the Microsoft Graph, see what things they have access to. Are there other plugins that we've put in here to say, hey, we want to go and look at Bing, or we want to look at something else? Is there other data that's coming in that's part of the Microsoft Graph that can kind of fine tune that a little bit? Once it does that, it goes back through Copilot and says, hey, I've modified this prompt. Here's what they asked for, and now I'm going to say, okay, well, that means that I need to go look for this piece of data, and then I need to look for this piece of data, and I need to try to combine those two together. And so it kind of goes through its whole process of saying, I know you said this. Here's what I'm going to simplify it down to so that I can send it over to the large language model. Sends that in, gets its response. That comes back to Copilot again and says, okay, let me interpret that. Goes back and says, all right, now let's go back to the graph again and make sure that we're producing things that actually the user has access to before it returns that back as the response. So there's a lot of things going on in there in between. The important thing, of course, again, graph, that is your tenant, knowing what you have access to. All of that you can see is inside M365 service boundary. So it's not going to be going outside or pulling stuff in that's outside of that, unless you have something specific like one of these extra plugins in there as well too.
And that's why, like, when you create like graph connectors or you create agents, you would be asked to provide meaningful description for the actual graph connector or the actual agent, the agent actions, etc. Because when it goes to this orchestrator right here, this is the one that's going to read the description of all the graph connectors, all of the agents. And then it's going to determine, oh, I need to go to that graph connector or to this graph connector, or get me from all of the SharePoint environment, or get me from that agent. So this is the one that's going to determine like to which path or like to which data source is going to get the results from. So there is some confusion that we're going to be talking about right here.
Yeah, so the important thing here to see is that Microsoft is changing some things on the back end, and they're rebranding a lot of things. So what we used to call M365 is now M365 Copilot. So if you type in office.com or Microsoft365.com, those URLs are redirecting now to m365.cloud.microsoft.com. And the page as it comes up, as Mohammed shows here, is it says, welcome to M365 Copilot. So what you're looking at is a page that looks the same as it did before for M365. You're seeing your quick access and your links and things that you opened recently. You've got your search box, which is just your straight search index. Over on the left-hand side, you actually have a button there. You have a little what do they call them these days? A skittle that's Copilot, which will take you over to that actual interface as well too. So they're really starting to kind of rename everything as Copilots and agents. So try to avoid that confusion if you can, but it may be a little jarring here for the foreseeable future.
Mm-hmm. I think there's going to be a consistent trend of Microsoft renaming, which is always done, but because of the pace of releases, the URLs is a frustration. It's when you've got technical documentation where labeling is totally wrong. That's where it gets a little bit more challenging.
Yep. And now we have the Copilot chat versus Microsoft 365 Copilot. So this was introduced earlier this year, the Copilot chat for free, versus the licensed Copilot chat, which is all the Copilot applications for $30 a month for each user. And the reason Microsoft they introduced this one is they wanted users to stop going to ChatGPT to do stuff. They wanted to have everything in the same environment. So I'm working with Microsoft 365 and Microsoft Teams. I want to do something related to generative AI. So now I have to go to ChatGPT. So Microsoft they introduced the Copilot chat. It's going to be available for free for anyone in order to be used. It's available for all licensed users. It's secured by the enterprise data security model available in Microsoft 365. So if you upload your documents, it's going to be secured the same way that as any other document. So that's going to be there. File uploads, code interpreter, Copilot pages, image generation support. That's all available as well. It's not going to work for the graph data that's available in the environment. So it doesn't have access to your SharePoint environment, etc. But you can also include that if you want to go with pay-as-you-go subscription model. So you can set up an agent pay as you go in order to work on graph data or SharePoint data in the backend. Or if you want to use Copilot within different Office applications, then you can go with the Copilot, Microsoft 365 Copilot, and pay for this license. So we can show how it looks like for users without access to Copilot. So I have this user right here, and Adele, she's signed in, and she doesn't have access to Copilot, and that's what she's gonna get. I'm able to upload documents right here and reason over documents that I would have in my environment. Or what I can do is I can just ask anything from the web itself. So maybe what we can do is, let's do something. Generate, let's see the, what is it called? The code interpreter feature. So generate word cloud image from, let's say, from the, let's actually get a page in Microsoft 365 documentation. So Copilot documentation. And let's see here, this one from this page. And I can paste in this one. Let's see what it's going to do for us. So now it's executing task, and this is where the code interpreter is going to kick in.
So while it's doing that, let me look at some of the questions coming through. Can Copilot be installed on your phone? Yes, it can.
Yep.
As a standalone, go to the App Store.
So there it is. So it generated this for me easily. Now we can think about what it can do for content in a SharePoint page or in a marketing campaign. Let's say the marketing campaign, they have a bunch of documents, PowerPoint presentations, and you can say, generate this for me. And it's going to do this for you. So this is like one of the features of Code Interpreter. I can now say, edit in pages, and now I'm going to have this page in Copilot pages. Now I can just maybe share it with someone else in the team, like say, hey, Jimbab, can you work with me on this? And I'm going to add Jimbab to this page. Word Cloud, Copilot, Word Cloud. And now we have this one. And in order for you to access this one, you're going to find all of the Copilot pages available for you when you're viewing the Microsoft 365, when you're viewing the Microsoft 365 Admin Center, or like the landing page. So you're going to find it on the left-hand side. Right now, I'm signed in with a different user, not the same user, Adel, but this is where you're going to be able to access all of your
questions. Copilot usage. I'm assuming I've assigned a Copilot license to Jim, who says, oh, I need Copilot to do my job. How do I know he's actually using that license?
There is a place in Microsoft 365.
Interpret that correctly. Yep.
So there's a place in Microsoft 365 in the report center in Microsoft 365. I'll show it to you in a second. Actually, let's go and view it right now. So you would go to admin. Let's go to admin center, not active users. Let's go to reports, and under the users right here, I will go to Microsoft 365 Copilot. So here you have these sections. I have the readiness section. This is going to tell me which users are good candidates in order to have Copilot licenses assigned to. I have the users, which is going to show me which users are actually using Copilot. So if I go to the users section, scroll all the way to the bottom, this is where you're going to see if users are actually using Copilot or not. So I can see the display name of the user. I can see last date of activity in Copilot chat in the web, Teams Copilot, Microsoft Word, all of that stuff, right? So this is where you're going to be able to see users' names. And if you're seeing like encrypted usernames right here, because that's going to be the default thing that you're going to be seeing, then you'll need to change that setting from the org settings. You have a report area right here, and here you'll need to disable concealed user group in all reports. You need to uncheck this one, so you're going to be able to see the actual people's names.
Okay, if to dig in a bit deeper in that, does it show you what Copilots people are using? Like, is it Word, PowerPoint?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
So here,
I think I did see that. Yeah, that's a second question follow up.
Yeah, so here you can see it's using Copilot chat for the web. If you scroll to the right even more, you can see when was the last time this user used Copilot in Word, in Excel, PowerPoint, and so on and so on. And you can download this report to see this data as well. All right. So yeah, right here it's the same users. You can still keep asking questions right here and then work with Copilot on this Copilot page in this area. So that is that for Copilot chat. Any questions, Peter, about this one?
No. Any questions come through on the chats?
Anything you'd like to add, Jimbo?
Yeah, I think you covered it.
All right.
Okay, someone's asking about does it do non-English? I don't know. That's a pretty good question. So I'm Spanish. Okay, does Copilot work in multi-language, multilingual?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it actually does a pretty good job when you're reasoning across things. So it could give you a response back, and then you can say, "Hey, put this in my language." The other thing that it'll do too is that whatever your default language is that you've set within your tenant, it's going to work within that. So if you're asking the question in French, it's going to give it back to you in French. But if you were to say, "Hey, I want to go and reason across this English, document, but I speak French," it's going to analyze the English, but it's going to give you the response back in French unless you tell it that you wanted it in a different language. I've seen it do this multiple times with multiple folks. I'm a native English speaker, and so when I read and see the responses coming back, I understand them very clearly in English. I've had others say that, hey, when that gets interpreted to my language, French or Spanish, it does a pretty good job of being very clear about exactly what it's doing. So honestly, I think that's probably one of the most underutilized places within Copilot is when you have a multilingual organization to be able to use it to do some of that interpretation for you. Maybe not necessarily to like take one document and translate the entire thing as another language, but it's certainly for, hey, we produced it in one language, but the Copilot has reasoned across that and then given the response in the native language of the person who's asking the question, and that really solves a lot of confusion, I think, in a lot of situations.
So let me ask you this. So I'm an English speaker. I get a PDF in French. I get an employment contract in French as a PDF. I can put that into ChatGPT and say, "Tell me what this document means in English," and it will convert it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good. There you go.
Yep.
There we are.
So the content can be in a language, but the prompt can be in a different language, and then it can translate that in the middle, right?
Yeah, and of course you also have the ability to tell it, hey, give this response to me more formally or more casually, or in Pirate if you want to. I mean, it'll let you do those types of things too. So it can be kind of fun to play with. But the truth is that the language engine of it is really good from a translation perspective.
Cool.
So now we have more specialized copilots. So I always when I think about Copilot, I think about the big brother and then the little brother, or the general purpose Copilot and then the specialized copilots. So the general purpose Copilot is the one that you're going to find when you go to copilot.microsoft.com, or the one that's going to be available in Microsoft Teams. But then you have specialized copilots that are going to do dedicated things within Microsoft Loop, Microsoft Planner, Stream, etc. And these specialized ones, they're going to be able to do certain things. Like the Excel one is very good at writing formulas, etc. The PowerPoint one is going to be generating slides for you, and so on and so on. So these are the specialized copilots. If you want to write an email that would get you all the tasks, do different things here and there, then you want to take it out from these specialized copilots into the general purpose copilot to do stuff in there. So, yep. These are available right here. All of these, they would require, the Copilot chat can be available for free, but it doesn't have access to your Microsoft 365 environment. All of these, you would need to have Copilot license, except for the Viva Engage. You need to have you can just have the CNC license with Viva Engage, Communities and Communications license. And the SharePoint, you can set it up with pay-as-you-go license. Okay. So you can have it with pay-as-you-go.
Okay, so someone said Visio. My understanding is that Copilot is not available for Visio.
No.
Okay, and you obviously, I don't see Microsoft Project here, or is that now being rebranded as Planner?
Yeah, it would be available because now Microsoft To Do, Project Planner, they're all now in the new Planner. So yeah, it's going to be available there.
I'm looking up Visio right now to answer that. I think you're right. I don't think it is available in Visio yet.
So Microsoft 365 applications. I'm just going to show a couple demos for this one. First one is from Outlook, for example. Once you open Outlook and you want to start writing a new email, you're going to find Copilot is available for you right here, and you can find Draft with Copilot available for you right here. If I go with this one, Draft with Copilot, I'm going to find the suggestions, what I want to write, etc. So what I can say is write an email to Jim Bob to thank him for all the hard work and great job he's done on the latest SharePoint project. Make the email funny with emojis, right? So let's see what Copilot is going to come up with. Now it's going to start writing your email.
Lightning fast.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's because it's a demo. If it wasn't a demo, it would be quick.
And you can put it on fast forward a bit.
Yeah. Let me back to Copilot. Try it again. There it is. So this is the email that got generated by Copilot. What I can do here is, let's say that I wrote this email myself, right? And I didn't use Copilot. What I can do is I can go to Copilot right here and say, coaching. This is like the way to tell Copilot, hey, I want you to check this email and review what has been going on. So here, like you see at the bottom, generating suggestions, etc. It's going to analyze this email and see if it was written in a professional way, if some things need to be changed. Since I asked Copilot to write it in a funny way with emojis, Copilot now, when it reviews that, is going to review in a professional way. It's going to tell me, hey, like you're having jokes in this email, you're having emojis, this is not professional, etc. So it's going to tell me now that this is not the right way to write an email. So almost there, but it's a little bit slow. Shouldn't be slow this much, but it's gonna do it for me. While this one is getting done, we can switch to Excel, for example. So right now in Excel, what we can do here is we have some dummy sales data. So I have the sales date, the product, the number of units sold, and the price, and the sales revenue. I have here Copilot. When you're using Copilot with Excel, it's good to have your data in a table so Copilot can reason over that. And you would need to save Copilot or like save this file in SharePoint or OneDrive. So you need to have this auto save always available. And you're going to get that when you save the data, the file in SharePoint or OneDrive. Now, what things I can do here is can say, can you format the first column as a date field with no time? Let's see what it's going to do with this first field. Understanding your data, it should know the first column is this one, and it should be able to format it. Now it's going to tell you what it's going to do, and you will need to click on apply right here to apply the changes. So apply date, time, format, etc., etc. And now let's see what it's going to do. And there we go. Now we have the first column as date only, right? Generate a chart with the product that was sold the most. Showing chart, showing products and their units sold. So we can do something like this. It's going to analyze this data, and now it's going to generate a chart showing that. And then I can add it within this same Excel sheet, or I can add it within a new sheet. And now we have it right here. It's going to ask you to add it to a new sheet. I can do this. And now we have a new sheet right here with this information.
Yeah, I've seen this. This is brilliant.
Yep.
The
Another
other thing
thing,
that
like
it does a pretty good job too is that you can just show it this data and say, what's this about? and it'll tell you. It'll say, hey, this looks like this is sales data from a certain amount of time, give you the date range over these different products. And then you can say, hey, is there anything else I should put in here? Like, is there any other type of field? And it may give you some suggestions about, well, if you had this other column in here that you could calculate, then you could create a chart that could tell you what the trends are over time, right? And so that's another benefit. Excel is one of those that it's a tricky tool to start with because there's so many things you can do with it, and so it's so robust that it's got tons of formulas. You've got to understand what it is that you're trying to do within Excel. And so Copilot sometimes will hallucinate a little bit because it's just not up to snuff sometimes to understand all the things that a power user in Excel could do. So I've heard a lot of power users say, Copilot, it's not that great when it comes to Excel because I could have figured that out on my own. But if you're new, or if you're trying to find something different, or if you'd like to just analyze that data, it does a pretty good job of giving you some suggestions. Even if it's just down to, I'm trying to get this one formula to do this, to pull something from over here, but only give me the ones that are within the certain date range. If you tell it all of that, it'll say, okay, well, here's how that works, and here's a formula for it. Here's how you set it up. Here's what it's doing for you, so that you actually understand how the formula works, not just creating it for you, although that's nice, but it also kind of explains you, kind of trains you along the way.
Yeah.
Yep. And if you're ever getting like issues with Excel, with Copilot, try to use Excel Online. Excel Online tends to work much better than the client version. So things that you can also do, like here is format all currency fields as currency. Let's see. Now it should format these two fields. Let's see what it's going to do with this one. Apply. And it knew that I should format these two and leave this one, right? So it has this intelligence right here on reading the actual data in Excel, right? So let's go back to our slide. All right. Now we saw like how to use Copilot in different Office applications, PowerPoint. We can see like in PowerPoint, Excel, etc., etc. Now, how can we manage our prompts in our environment? There's something that's called prompt gallery. So prompt gallery is a way for you to save your frequently used prompts. You can share prompts with other people. There used to be like this application that's called, it's still there, the Prompt Buddy, which is a Power Apps application that you install in your environment. But Microsoft is trying to replace that with something that's native within the actual Copilot experience. So when you're using this, you're going to see that you have the Microsoft prompts available for you. You have your prompts, and then you have prompts that you have shared with other team members available right here. Then you can sort by or filter by the application and so on and so on. You're going to find these there. So we can actually, do we want to
multi-team prompts?
Yep. So
that's a question.
It's not the prompts are not based on the team. It's based on, it's my prompt and I'm sharing it with other people. So it's going to start showing there. So it's not like based on actual teams in the environment. It's based on individuals, and then you share this with other people. So it's going to show team prompts, but it's not actually team. It's just people I'm sharing the prompt with.
Yeah, but can I create an HR team? I think the question is, can I create an HR team and a sales team and have HR type prompts and sales type prompts?
You could do this with the Prompt Buddy.
Right.
So with the Prompt Buddy, you could do something similar to this with, let me actually show you how it would look like.
And while he's pulling that up, the truth is too, is that even if you have a prompt that maybe is HR specific, if everyone can see it within this, doesn't mean they have access to the same data, right? And so HR, while they may use it, and you may say, hey, well, I want to ask that same prompt, and like, well, you don't have access to the data that they're getting back. So you're not going to get very, very valid results as well.
Mm-hmm. So Peter, for your question, here you can have prompts based on the application. So here, like I have Copilot, Designer, and so on and so on. And I could have prompts based on the department itself. So I can see that I have prompts related to HR, prompts related to IT, and so on and so on. And as an admin, I'm going to be able to add a new section right here for a new department or a new functionality. Can make it based on the persona right there. And I can see prompts for business users, for developers, IT professionals, etc. So it's more robust. The other one that we were seeing right here, the prompt gallery, is not hasn't reached this level yet with when managing prompts. But if you want to do something like this, Prompt Buddy is still supported. So and still like a application that Microsoft team and other community members are still working on. So you can still use this one if this is a requirement, right? All right. So let's go next. So now discussing the extensibility, I'm just going to cover this quickly within the next 3 minutes. So it's like quick introduction. So when you want to extend Copilot, Copilot is going to be able to only get you information from Microsoft Graph. That is the limits of what it can reach. Microsoft Graph, for those who don't know that, in all of my sessions, I have this analogy of Microsoft Graph is an octopus. So an octopus, it has like arms reaching out all over the place, SharePoint content, Teams, etc., etc. So Graph is the same thing. It has access. It has these arms that can get you information from SharePoint, Teams, conversations in Outlook, etc. My tasks, people I'm working with, my colleagues, my manager, and so on and so on. So whatever Graph has access to, Copilot also has access to that information. If you want to know that if Copilot is able to do something, you should ask yourself, is Graph able to do this thing? If Graph is able to do it, then Copilot is going to be able to do it. So the first step in order to extend Copilot is maybe extend your content, add your documents into SharePoint sites, into your OneDrive. Whenever you add content in there, Copilot is going to be able to pick it up because Graph is going to be able to pick it up. The next point is, what if I have content, but I'm not able to add this content in my SharePoint site, like ServiceNow, Workday, etc., etc. Here comes extending Microsoft Graph itself, applying one more arm to this octopus in order to reach to ServiceNow, to reach to Workday. This is super, super easy. You have out-of-the-box graph connectors, you have third-party graph connectors, and you're going to be able to build your own graph connectors. Graph connectors will take the content from ServiceNow, push it into Microsoft 365 Graph itself, and now it's available for you. So you're basically extending Microsoft Graph. That's the second method, I would say. You can use SharePoint agents. So with SharePoint agents, you're going to be able to create an agent within a SharePoint site that has access to a particular file, to a folder, to a document library, or to multiple SharePoint sites at the same time. And this is going to be your agent that's going to be able to answer questions from these data sources that I just mentioned within a SharePoint site. Then you have an agent builder. This is like your next step. Agent Builder is going to do whatever SharePoint Builder is going to be able, or SharePoint Agent is going to be able to do for you, but it's going to enable you to extend to Microsoft Graph as well, to Graph connectors. So let's say that I'm building an agent that gets information from the HR department and the IT department in SharePoint sites, but I want to also at the same time go and reach out to ServiceNow Graph connector. I can do this with an Agent Builder in this case. Next step, take it one level further with Copilot Studio agents. You can build an agent in Copilot Studio that has actions. So now I'm not only getting information, but I'm also able to take action. So I'm getting information from ServiceNow, and I want to send it in a workflow or do something, right? So this is the next step. Then you have declarative agents. You can build these with Visual Studio Code, connect them to web APIs in order to get information from data sources, take an action. Or you can just forget about Copilot altogether and say, hey, I don't want to use Copilot. I don't have the license to do this. And you can go with custom agents built in Microsoft Azure from scratch. And then it's going to be pay as you go, create your own, bring your own model, create your own chatbot, and then build it from there. So different ways to extend Microsoft 365 Copilot, and depends on your needs, your license, the complexity, all of that stuff.
Yep.
For the sake of time, do we want to stop here?
Yes, we're 1 minute over. No more questions coming in. How much more how much more of the presentation do you have?
I think
don't tell me like another 2 hours kind of thing. Yeah.
No, I think we can just stop.
We could probably do a part 2 if you want.
Jimba, what do you think? Do you want to do part 2?
We could. I don't know if we have enough content left for an entire part 2 but I'd be happy to field questions.
Yeah, we have demos for SharePoint agents, AI agent builders.
We'll reach out to you as a part 2. We've got a few people scheduled for the next coming months. Well, sure. I'll reach out to you for a part 2 on this.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
we can
extensibility,
talk about it.
like Mohammed said, Peter, would probably be the best place because there's a lot, there's a lot just within these 6 bullets that could be demoed or
exactly.
talked about.
Oh yeah, totally.
When to use
Lots
what,
of details.
right?
Yeah, on that. Yeah, no, I agree. Like it's almost like just pick 3 bullet points.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, this is like a 2-day, a 1-day workshop.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, Jim and Mohammed, thank you for your time. Very educational. Some good questions came in. We'll speak again for part 2. Okay.
Sure.
Right.
Thanks, Peter.
All right. Take care. Bye.
All right.
Take care.
Bye-bye.